Hello and welcome to a Monday edition of Sutton Impact Family Style, episode 236. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill, and I'm going through Steeler depression today.
Let's just go Steeler moment to start. People know who we are, so.
All right. Hideous.
And hopeless, I think, is the worst part for this year.
And Jason and I were talking offline. We felt that we were accurate picking them to finish last in the division. But then after the Buffalo game, we became unrealistic in our expectations and our hopes.
Which is the fan experience. That's what you want.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, we jumped. We were excited. We jumped. And now we're back to normal. But it's hard to deal with being back to normal because they're that bad.
yeah. And there's, every time you see a little spark of hope, like, Najee Harris had, I think, 17 catches yesterday, which would make PPR fantasy football players happy, but they can't block for him. And the few times they do, it gets called back for holding. The reason he's getting all those dump off,
Wake up in his body today. He's got to be really sore.
really sore, and he's getting all those dump off passes because Roethlisberger can't get the ball down the field, either due to his arm strength or the offensive line not blocking long enough. They're a disaster right now. And we talked offline, like,
They're horrible.
if I'm Kevin Colbert, I'm looking at everybody over 30 on my team, and if anybody calls, I'm trading them. I'm looking for picks and looking to get this rebuild started and moving. And,
We'll be drafted in the top 10.
yeah. I mean, if the Chiefs are desperate enough to sign Josh Gordon for his 8th or 9th trip into the league, where he's really only produced one time, I'd like to see what they'd give up for Juju, who's a pending free agent.
I just don't. The Josh Gordon thing makes me sick. I just don't understand it. I really don't. If you have a penalty, it's got to be a penalty. You can't just keep letting you appeal. It's supposed to be 3 strikes, you're out. He's not out. He's in the on deck circle. It seems like all the time.
And the cynical thing about, when I look at the history of the NFL with suspending guys, typically the guys that get suspended that stay away are the Ray Rices that were already sort of on the decline anyway. So you were sort of like, whatever. Whereas an Antonio Brown, he can still perform at an incredibly high level. He can still be a top 1 or 2 wide receiver on almost any team in football. Whereas Josh Gordon, like, I saw the numbers today. Like, he had an amazing breakout season where he had like 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns and seemed unstoppable when he was for the Browns. But he hasn't produced. He has like 6 touchdowns in his last 33 games. And he's unreliable. So it's hard to imagine there's not a practice squad guy out there, not somebody the Chiefs could have traded for. Like, some of me part thinks that, when you look at Andy Reid and his family, and obviously pray for Andy Reid who's in the hospital right now, but just, his family's problems with addiction, not to bring those, I'm not airing them out to, call it out. I'm just simply saying that maybe a guy like Josh Gordon gets a little extra love from somebody like Andy Reid, somebody that wants to give him another chance based on, that's my only explanation. Because like I said, his production hasn't been there, his reliability isn't there. And it's hard to imagine that that's the guy the Chiefs, a Super Bowl contender, would want to bring in right now.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe that is the angle, that he thinks that in that situation that they could get more out of him, that he can make it more like the 1 year he had to break out rather than the other years.
Yeah. When you have Tyreek Hill on the field, when you have Travis Kelce on the field, you're going to get a lot of single coverage. So, but that brings up another old receiver who had an amazing game, and we'll go right to, a more positive game. Deshaun Jackson, 50 years old, still getting it done for the Rams, who just handled their business against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
How old is Deshaun Jackson really?
I think he's late 30s, actually.
But he's old.
He's old. He's been in the league. He's one of those guys that, like, I just feel like he's always been in the league. And I don't know, I know that's not true, obviously, but, But he was burning guys yesterday. He burned them on that long touchdown. Almost got a little bit too cocky towards the end, but we both picked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, I believe, right?
Yeah, and yesterday Tom Brady looked like he was 50. He was getting hit a lot.
He was.
And he threw 50. I think he threw 55 passes yesterday.
He did. The Rams, whenever you have Aaron Donald, you can get pressure with 3 or 4 guys because Aaron Donald is just that good. And
Yeah, and they were able to rotate and keep all their guys fresh. It wasn't like you're going to play every play.
and it's been 3 weeks, which hasn't been even a quarter of the season yet. But I was very Matthew Stafford skeptical coming into the season, and I'm starting to buy into Matt Stafford at this point.
I'm trying to buy into him because he's in a system looks like it's tailor made for him, and he's going to excel.
But just watching, Jared Goff over the last few years, and then watching Matthew Stafford, like, it's a very different experience. Not just in terms of the throws he can make, but the decision making, the timing, the speed at which he's getting the ball out of there. And he's already got a great rapport with Cooper Kupp, who, we talked a little bit offline, like, we'll keep weaving our Pittsburgh talk in and out, I'm sure. But people are very angry with Matt Canada, who's the Steelers' new offensive coordinator. But he was talking about bringing in a lot of motions and a lot of schemes that confuse defenses. But if you want to know what that looks like as a Steeler fan or another NFL team, just watch the Rams. I mean, Cooper Kupp is their number one wide receiver. That's somebody that defense is paying attention to. And there are plays where they just get him wide open. And then as I talk, wide open.
Like 20, 30 yards wide open.
And again, you're like, how are you letting Cooper Kupp, of all people, get 30 yards wide open? But again, it's just beautiful play calling and execution. And then the Tyler Higbee touchdown, they ran a wide receiver from Higbee's side across the formation, and it looked like he was going to run in behind a bunch formation at like the 2-yard line. It was going to be like a wide receiver screen, the 3 wide receivers block. He plows his way in, but it was all misdirection. It was a screen the other way to Tyler Higbee, who faked in, popped out, caught the ball, easy touchdown. It was just incredible. I mean, he fooled the camera, he fooled everything. Definitely fooled me because I'm used to watching Steelers, and I thought I knew where that play was going. And
yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, I was really, really impressed with the Rams. And we said we were really impressed with that whole division, and that division looks really good.
Outside
the 49ers played really well last night, only to lose at the final gun because they left Aaron Rodgers too much time left on the clock.
Yeah. But in that division, surprisingly, the Seattle Seahawks already look like they're in late season Seahawks form at 1-2. And I know from watching a little bit of that game in the first half, Seahawks are rolling. DK Metcalf from Russell Wilson touchdown, and then they just stall and their offense just dies on the vine halfway through a game, and it's really odd because you look at the team and you just don't understand why it's happening. It's pretty crazy.
Well, I feel bad for the Lions today because they played such a really good game and lost on a 66-yard field goal.
Yeah, an amazing NFL record-setting walk-off 66-yard field goal. Do you know who? Do you remember the original play that Dempsey with the partial foot?
60, yes.
You know who he kicked that against?
Yes, the same team that lost yesterday.
And the previous record holder, Matt Prater of the Denver Broncos, who had a 65-yarder, also kicked it against the Detroit Lions.
Oh, I didn't know all 3 of them.
All 3 of them. So if you're a field goal kicker, you really want to play the Lions, I think, because it just seems like it's a good spot for you.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was all 3. I knew it was 2 of them, but I didn't know it was all 3.
Yeah, 3 out of 3. So if you've got a leg that can kick at 60, you want to go into.
I continue to be very impressed with the Chargers.
Very impressed with the Chargers, but I feel like the Chiefs have been really sloppy all season. I mean, their defense obviously is not very good. And as I mentioned last week, much to my fantasy chagrin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire does not look like he's the next great running back to really make that offensive move. But they just seem like they're just sloppy right now.
Yeah.
Where the Chargers, I mean, I was going to move on to Miami, but we can sort of transition from Justin Herbert, who looks like maybe a generational quarterback. Like, he just doesn't seem to make mistakes. His throws are just beautiful. And I think he completed over 80% of his passes for 4 touchdowns against the Chiefs yesterday. And again, we said their defense isn't great, but he looks, yeah, it doesn't look like a fluke.
Very confident. Another one, just in a good system. sometimes it's matching the guy up with the right system.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, obviously, right system now.
We're 3-0. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess talking about Herbert, as good as he's looked, Burrow looked really good against the Steelers yesterday. Tua missed the game yesterday, and in his place was Jacoby Brissett, who, another nice journeyman quarterback, but unfortunately for Tua, made that team look much more dangerous on offense. They lost the game against the Raiders, but they forced into overtime. And it seemed like once Brissett got in the groove, he was just like Fitzpatrick before him. Before the season, I said I had a lot of Tua love, but I don't think he's very good.
No.
And speaking of not very good, every rookie quarterback this week. They are looking very, very... After watching Herbert and Burrow and some of these other young guys over the last few years, Zach Wilson is throwing pick after pick, looking terrible. Trevor Lawrence, I thought, would look a lot better than he has this year, because the Jaguars' offense is not terrible. But he has not looked like, the next coming of John Elway or anybody else. And Justin Fields had 1 yard passing yesterday and was sacked 9 times.
Yeah, I think everybody's been commenting that they should not worry about Andy Dalton, that he should throw him out there. Well, they threw him out there, and he got thrown around.
Although, one beautiful thing I did see, and I don't know if this was just done for the sake of comedy or just to roast Matt Nagy a little bit more as an offensive coordinator and head coach, but Bears fans were apologizing to Mitch Trubisky. Saying maybe it wasn't your fault after all, Mitch.
Maybe that's a truer statement.
That may be a truer statement. But Matt Nagy, who was already pretty high, is now the favorite to be the first coach fired this season. And, because you figure one of the reasons you don't play Herbert, there's a history of guys, Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady, guys that sit a little bit while before they get to come in, and it does help them. But, it's also, if you're the GM and you're the head coach, if you don't break glass in case of emergency, that's your ticket to get another year on the job. You're like, well, we're getting everything in place for Justin. We're getting him ready. We don't want to have a nice transition. But, you have a 6'4", 220-pound quarterback who runs a 4.4 40, and I think the numbers I saw, he had like 3 designed rollouts. How does that make any sense? And it looked like 0 designed runs. And I understand maybe you don't want to get him banged up on a running play up the middle, although that's part of the reason you drafted him. But you're not rolling him out. You're not getting him out of the pocket, getting him on the edge. That's what you want to do with a guy like that, isn't it? But,
It's like a little college football.
Okay.
The overranked Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah.
Don't know what I had. That's always been an offensive juggernaut, and yesterday struggled to put up 16 points.
I know.
I don't know where. And Spencer Rattler was a preseason pick for the Heisman,
and a potential number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on there. They're 4-0, but it's probably the most unimpressive 4-0 in college football.
Without a doubt. Just really unimpressed. And again, Spencer Rattler in Oklahoma was, vibed on offense all year. That was their off season. Like, look out, we've got the Heisman candidate, potential number 1 draft pick, future of the NFL. He's got a cool name like Spencer Rattler in Oklahoma. But no, they have not looked great.
No, they don't. Georgia looks really good. Clemson is ranked 25th now.
Yeah, they are officially, I think, for the first time in, 5 or 6 years, not going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's official. And then North Carolina State beat them.
Yeah.
Geez, I don't... Some ones that you don't really expect. Ohio State hasn't looked that good.
No. But if you're Clemson, you went from Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence. And, you were hoping the next guy was the next guy, and it doesn't look like he's the guy.
No, and there was a lot of speculation there.
There was
a lot of hype.
And again, I think you just you miss on a draft, a recruiting class here or there, and that can just pull down a program.
Well, my feel-good story in college football is Arkansas, who hasn't been good for a really long time, but used to always be a perennial contender. And now they beat Texas A&M in Jerry's world, and they beat Texas now, and they look really, really good. And the guy that's coaching them was a guy that kind of got the job by default. And, not a big name coach, not a high profile guy, but he fits the mold and they're playing well. And it's fun to see. And their quarterback really reminds me of Cam Newton. I mean, he's big. They actually put a couple plays up yesterday showing Cam in college and this guy. And you could have just switched out the colors of the jerseys and you thought it was the same guy.
That's not a bad thing to be, especially as a college quarterback.
Big, tough, good arm. So Arkansas is my team to watch right now. They're fun to watch. Oregon continues to win. UCLA came back and won. I think Georgia might be the class though right now. Their defense is unbelievable.
Yeah, I really want to see
offense to be really scary.
Yeah, Georgia, Florida, Alabama. I think those are the three, and I can't wait to see any of those teams clash, go head to head again. So.
And I'm looking forward to Mississippi playing Alabama this week. With Lane Kiffin's offense, they're averaging over 50 points a game. And they're fun to watch. If you've not seen Mississippi yet, and I'm telling our listeners this, if you've not seen Mississippi play, I'll be curious how they play against Alabama this week. But they have a fun, electric offense.
And Alabama has
really
looked
dynamic.
And I think this has been the year where Alabama, I know it's really early in the year, but this is it's vulnerable as Alabama's looked in a long time, I think.
Yeah, Alabama's going to outscore you. They're not going to shut you out this year. It's interesting. I think this will be a fun game. I think it'll be in the 40s.
Which gives you a chance,
Yeah. I think both teams will be in the 40s.
Nice.
Now, everybody that knows me, don't go bet that now because I'm always wrong. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see what else is going on.
You said you got some golf talk.
I watched the Ryder Cup, which really wasn't very competitive.
No?
The U.S. dominated. Sergio Garcia and John Rahm played really well for the European team. Rory McIlroy won one match. He won his singles match, but he was like 1-4. But the Americans were Colin Morikawa was unbelievable. Bryson DeChambeau is fun to watch. He had to drive 417 yards.
That's really, really fun.
But you just never know if it's going to be in the fairway or not.
Yeah, but
so he's had to hit some shots. But I got to tell you, I watched that golf course, and I wouldn't pay it if you gave me a free greens fee. I wouldn't play it. And I watched guys that are the best in the world hit it in the garbage, and then hit their second shot over the green into more garbage, and it just looked impossible to play. So that course was dominant. But it was great to see the Americans win. It was great to see a lot of golf fans out there. There were crowds of over 50,000.
Whoa! It
was really good to see that people felt good about going out and cheering and everything. But it was more like watching that Waste Management Open, because they would cheer when one of the Europeans would have a bad shot. So it was really like you would have at a regular sporting event, not golf. So it was very, very different.
I think that would open up golf a lot more to a different fan base. I'm not sure how many people you'd lose of the ones you already have, which I know is the issue, but.
Yeah, there was people dressed up. It was rowdy. It's a rowdy crowd. And they say that the Ryder Cup is a rowdy event. And so maybe it is a good thing. But it just, you feel kind of bad for a guy, and he hits a shot, and he feels bad, and all of a sudden they're cheering him, not, that he hit a bad shot. And so it's just different.
Yeah. I'll agree, without a doubt. Well, we'll do our NBA 30 seconds. Joel Embiid tweeted out that when he was in California, he and some other 76ers attempted to meet with Ben Simmons and he was rebuffed. So Ben Simmons seems like he definitely does not want to show up this year, which I'm interested to see what happens if that happens. But there's really that was pretty much my only NBA tidbit. So that was the NBA.
Well, I keep hearing rumors he's going to end up with the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I don't know if you're the Sixers because you're not getting Towns and you're not getting Edwards, and I don't know who else I would want from that team that's going to have. Because I mean, if I'm the Sixers, I'm not. I don't. I have got a guy in Joel Embiid who's one of the best in the world, but he's also injury prone. He's a 7-footer with past injuries. Like I feel like I've got a 2 to 3 year window. So unless it's a 3-team deal, I need to bring in, 1 or 2 starters, including guys that I mean, the deal that made the most sense, which I guess wasn't technically a real deal, was like Buddy Hield and then either De'Aaron Fox or Halliburton. So then you got Buddy Hield on the outside that can hit threes, and you get either Halliburton or Fox to sort of handle the point guard position. And that seemed like the best fit.
But if you're Sacramento, why do you make that trade?
I wouldn't, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess because you just draft. I mean,
for Philadelphia, it's not a good trade for Sacramento.
I guess if you're Sacramento, you're thinking we drafted Halliburton last year. We have Fox, and then we drafted Mitchell this year. So we got 3 sort of smallish guards, and Buddy Hield is always unhappy. So
Yeah.
I guess your hope is that you bring in a big defensive guy like Ben Simmons. But again, I don't know where I really wouldn't want him on my team. So it's hard to imagine where I would think to trade him. Oh, I wrote this in my show notes real quick. This is our last Pittsburgh Minute of the day. But this is my pour one out for the bird because the Pirates are the Pirates, as you know. The Steelers look like they're not going to have a good year, and it may not be a good year next year. And then this Penguin season, Malkin is out indefinitely. Crosby's going to miss the first 2 months. And now Zach Austin-Reese is going to miss the beginning of the season with COVID. So not a great start for the Penguins,
Well, speaking of the Pirates, I said the Pirates would win 58 games, and the Pirates have won 58 games. So there's 5 games left. And, 5 games left. I don't think they're going to win 60. They got crushed today. So they're at 58 right now. And I'd like to see them stay at 58 just so I can be right. So I'm going to root for them to lose the next 5 games.
Well, at this point, it's about draft positioning anyway, so.
Yeah, and I don't think they can get back. I think the other teams are worse than that. They'll still get a top 5 pick. They won't get the number 1 pick next year.
Yeah, no, I was like, somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody was pretty low down on that list.
Baltimore's down there.
Yeah.
The Rangers are down there. The Diamondbacks are down there. There's some bad teams. But on the other hand, the Cardinals have won 16 in a row to pretty much walk up the second wild card spot in there. So it's going to be the Giants or the Dodgers win a division, and the other won't be the wild card along with the Cardinals. The National League's pretty set.
Yeah.
Unless the Phillies can overtake the Braves, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's going to be the Braves, the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Cardinals. And in the American League, the Yankees
are hanging around.
They're hitting ridiculous shots. I mean, they hit moon shots last night at Fenway Park. Giancarlo Stanton hit the scoreboard over the Green Monster. So, I mean,
yeah,
they're crushing the ball. So the Red Sox are pretty much out of it. The A's are out of it. The Mariners are out of it. So it looks like it could be the Yankees and the Jays for the wild card.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play the Yankees right now, obviously.
And then the Rays are already in. The White Sox are already in. The Astros are already in.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, I had
It should be fun. The Yankees look ridiculous right now. I know they've had a lot of ebbs and flows during the year, but we'll have to see. But I mean, that's a lot of power on a team.
It really is, and it seems like they're in like a weird groove where you feel like they could just get into that wild card, keep hitting, and then just explode.
Yeah. But like anything can happen in that wild card, you run up against the wrong pitcher.
Yeah. Well, I have multiple food and entertainment moments this week.
Okay.
Well, you were fine enough to send us some Snake River meat. It always sounds
Yeah.
weird, Snake River, but and we had the carne asada, and like you said, it was phenomenal. Put on the grill, 5 minutes on each side, sliced it, put on some tortillas, and incredibly good quality meat, and really good flavor. Like, very savory, a tiny bit of sweet, a little bit of heat on the back end. Just really, really good. The carne asada, I would highly recommend it. And again, like I
Snake
said,
River Ranch, you could go online and get that. They deliver and they ship it overnight.
and again,
It's frozen, and so
yeah,
you thaw it out, and it's tremendous.
super easy.
But
Like
really good quality meat.
and like I said, I asked you what to do, and you said just 5 minutes each side, and it came out perfect. So very.
And we cooked ours the next day. So I mean, I agree with Jason. It's some of the best carne asada I've ever had.
And again, it's almost fork tender for the most part. So
Yeah, very little waste on it. It's very lean, very marinated, and the seasoning is great, and it's just high quality grass-fed beef.
and then because I'm a pizza obsession, and Nola Pizza is slowly, we're getting some good ones. But I went to Nola Pizza Co., which is a brewery / pizza restaurant. And what they do is they have a special water filtration system that attempts to make the water the same as the water in Brooklyn. And I will say the crust was phenomenal. It's like a very thin New York style, but like the crust, when you get to the edge crust, it's got some air bubbles in it. My only slight complaint is that the sauce is just a tiny bit tinny, not like a fast food Pizza Hut, tinny sauce. But they don't use the San Marzano tomatoes. You don't have quite that clean finish taste. But really good price, and it's pretty cool. So Nola Pizza Company, along with Z's, Polly G's, Mayhew, Beauregard, Dominica. I mean, that's like 6 good Pizza Delicious. That's 7 good pizza restaurants.
That's a lot of pizza.
That's 7 places I can ramble off that are all quality pizza down here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to put a shout out to Goldbelly. Goldbelly put out a promotion today to patronize New Orleans food offerings on their website. So if you want to help out some really good people in New Orleans, good restaurants that have been damaged by Ida, go to Goldbelly and order from one of the restaurants that Goldbelly's promoting from New Orleans this week.
Yes. And there's some good ones on there. Did you have any food or not this, or just the carne?
Yeah, I did have food. We went back to Casa San Stefano, which I talked about a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I had swordfish, and it was probably the best swordfish I've had ever. It was just really, it was like pan-fried Italian seasoned with Parmesan, just tremendous swordfish with Parmesan potatoes, which were steak fries with Parmesan on them. But they were good.
That sounds good.
It's amazing. And Sharon had lobster linguine, which I've had there before, that it's to die for. It's just one of the best. It's taken over as my favorite restaurant in Tampa.
Okay.
From La Terraza, and I love La Terraza.
I was like, I love La Terraza, so
this is just taken over for it.
Wow.
But it's Gosmar family, so it's Columbia, it's Eulalie, it's all the one. He's a great restaurateur, and it's a Sicilian take, and it's an homage to the Sicilians and Cubans that was founded in Ybor City in the cigar industry.
Okay.
And rum runners.
All right.
And you had entertainment too?
I did. Well, I mean, I've mentioned them before, but the new season of What We Do in the Shadows is out, and the quality of the show just doesn't go away. It's just such a phenomenal show. I mean, it's a very silly vampire werewolf show, but it's, Takiti just kills it. And then a show that despite my love of horror films, as you know, I've never been that big on American Horror Story or stories, because I've always felt they were much more style over substance. They would put something in the background because they thought it looked cool or thought it would be freaky, but not. But this new season, it's 6 episodes, and there'll be some slight spoilers here, but I'm not sure how many people are going to go watch it. But essentially, it's a sort of take on, basically, there's this little town in Maine or New Hampshire somewhere, it's on the coast of the New England area, and this woman's invented a little black pill, and if you're talented and you take the black pill, it makes you the best at what you do, whether that's musician, stage writer, screenwriter. And if you don't take it, you basically become like a feral zombie kind of person that roams around looking for people. But the other catch is if you take it and you are incredibly talented, the only thing that keeps you going is human blood. So it's like a different take, I guess, on the vampire tale on some level.
Yeah. Okay.
But then it's like, the whole like, would you take it? And again, you only need to take the pill and drink the blood while you're doing your writing. So the premise is that there's a Broadway writer, there's an author, and then there's a screenwriter as the new person. And they basically come to this little New England resort town in the winter. And they write and they feed on people off Craigslist and crackheads and get all their writing done for a year. And then they're off the pill again for 9 months. But during those 3 months, you're probably killing 10 people and drinking their blood.
Well, on the entertainment side, we need to have a shout out to your brother.
Okay.
The trailer is out for Arcane, and the series will premiere on Netflix on November the 6th.
Nice. Very nice.
And I asked him, and he said you don't have to have played the game or been familiar with the characters to follow it and watch the TV show. Because he pointed out, obviously, and Jason would understand this, that the characters don't really have dialogue on the game, and they don't interact verbally and have a story in the game. And so you can just watch it and enjoy it.
Yes. He told me the same thing.
And so I'm gonna watch it on November 6th.
Nice. Oh, and then I guess while we're shouting out future things, if you watch The Sopranos...
Oh, yeah.
The new Saints of Newark?
The prequel.
The prequel.
The prequel to Sopranos.
They said it's like...
Newark or something along those lines. Premieres, I think, on the 1st.
Yeah, and they said it's like an incredible 2-hour episode of The Sopranos. Set in the past. So... I mean, I know most people that have watched Sopranos consider it one of the top probably 10 shows they've ever seen, so...
Free on HBO Max.
It is. And you get to see Gandolfini's son. Yeah. And Gandolfini's son is playing Gandolfini. His role.
And when you see him, it's uncanny. It really, really makes it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw the visual, I just could not believe it.
No, you could. There's no question who his dad is.
None. And the facial expressions, and the smile, and the smirk.
Yeah, the smile and the smirk. Yeah, because Gandolfini's smile and smirk are just so distinctive that, Yeah.
Yep, I will be watching it this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Along with the, I guess it's season 46 of Saturday Night Live.
And I saw that outside of Beck Bennett and the one girl who was never really featured very much, at least on screen, those are the only two that aren't coming back. And Joe Che, Adie Bryant, Cecily, Kenan Thompson. I can't remember her name, even though she's on every sketch. She's hilarious. She's coming back. I mean, everybody, like I said, you're only missing Beck Bennett and the one girl who really wasn't in very many sketches, which is...
Yeah, and I'm excited. That means Weekend Update stays the same.
It does. So we'll still get, our 3 annual doses of I'll write jokes for you jokes. Which, even though it's a very similar premise, they just never get old.
No, they don't. That's just... I cry when I watch those.
Yes.
Because I'm always in shock that they actually said it. So, it's just incredible. But I'm so happy about that. And I saw that Jason Sudeikis is the host in week 4.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kim Kardashian's also a host, but what can you do?
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
And while we're on the subject of SNL and Weekend Update, Norm Macdonald passed. Did you have were you a Norm Macdonald fan?
Yeah, I liked him. I wasn't a big fan, but I did like him. I appreciated his humor.
He had a very comedian's comedy take, I think, is what most people have said.
I did enjoy him in Billy Madison.
Yes. And people have been promoting Dirty Work, his one feature film, as being very underrated. That also starred Chris Farley and a bunch of other people in it.
Well, I might have to go back and rewatch that now.
And then there's obviously lots of clips going around social media of him just trashing OJ.
Well, I have taped the Muhammad Ali Ken Burns, and I have not watched it yet. So I've got 8 hours of that to watch, and I'll try and watch that and talk about that on one of our upcoming shows.
And I plan on starting Why the Last Man, which is based on a graphic novel I really enjoyed. So, and that's on FX,
All right,
and I think
everybody.
top 5 list.
Sorry for the Steeler crying, but that's who we are.
You're going to get it all year. So we'll try to put it towards the end of the show, though.